So you may or may not know, especially if you're new here, that I live here in Panama City, Panama. My family and I moved here about 3 months ago, give or take, más o menos, more or less. And this past week, I've had the most touristy experience you can have since moving here, thanks to my friend coming to visit me. And I also have had, bested only by birthing my children, the most physically arduous experience of my life. So let's talk about it. So this one is really just sharing some things with y'all about what my past week has been like, maybe why I have been so utterly exhausted when I have done my videos last week. And today is just like a put on my husband's t-shirt type of day because I'm in recovery from this past week, not the following week, this past week, which was amazing and exhausting and exhilarating and fun and informative and all the things. So I want to just take you with me a little bit on that journey. I'm going to be sharing a few photos and a few clips as well. Possibly, I think I got some video clips. I'm really bad. I tried to capture some things, okay? And if I didn't capture them, my friend captured and share it with me. So I'm gonna put in what I can, but I want to take you on this touristy journey with me because, child, I haven't really been a tourist since I've been here because I've talked a little bit about this before on the channel. I live here, and living here means I'm doing the things you do when you live here. So there was a stark difference between my friend who was coming to visit, who had an itinerary of things that she wanted to do each day that she was here for the week, and what I do on a day to day basis. Like I'm doing my laundry, I'm navigating our bills, I'm taking my kids to forest school or to an activity. All of those things are happening just like they would happen if I was anywhere, right? So it was kind of interesting to kind of press the pause button a little bit. And each day last week, be a tourist in a city that I am also essentially a tourist of because I haven't explored everything. And while I have some explored some things and I have other things that I want to explore on my list, I also know that I've spread those out because I feel like, oh, I have time, right? So I've spread them out. So let's talk about it. So my friend and her daughter got here Tuesday evening. So I didn't see them Tuesday, but they got in. It was great. Then Wednesday, we went on a walking tour with Dash. I'm going to try to put at least I'm going to find their Instagrams and link it below because it was a really great tour. It was a walking tour of Panama City. She has other amazing walking tours for Panama as well. It was so informative. I learned a lot about the history of Panama City from the perspective of, Afro-Panamanians, from the perspective of Afro-Antillians and Afro-colonials and what that looks like, right? I got more of a sense of it. And she showed us, told us about the first, Black president here and a very short-lived term and the circumstances around that. We went to the Afro-Antillian Museum, which is one of the museums I want to take my daughter to anyway. And I was like, great, we'll be able to go and check that out. And I loved it. It was a really, really amazing experience. Dash was a great tour guide. She was informative. She was passionate. She was fun and funny. It was kind of like being taken around by a good friend who was very knowledgeable about what she was talking about. She is also is Afro Panamanian, and she also had talked to family members and things like that. And so her research is informed in many different facets, right? In different areas. And so it was great. Walking tour was great. We had to be up early though, okay? Early. And while I am up in the morning because I have a toddler alarm clock between like 6 and 7 a.m., I'm not Adam. Okay. So I had to be up and Adam. Okay. Meet up with my friend and get to the meeting place for the tour. Okay. So yeah. And then we walked. I saw places here in Panama City that I hadn't experienced. I went to the Chinatown. We were in Santa Ana area and we saw the church out there. And I saw just different things that I hadn't seen before, even living in the city for 3 months. And so um, I felt really privileged to be able to see more and have my world expanded even though I wasn't expanding even outside of the city, I was just expanding within the city. And this isn't a huge city, right? Coming from New York, and like as metropolitan cities go, it isn't really big. But Panama's amazing. The country of Panama is amazing. It's an isthmus, which I did know. So that's a hard word to say. It's isthmus, so it seems small and narrow, but it's got a lot going on. It's got a lot of biodiversity, a lot of access, and a lot of different regional climate areas. So if you want to be a little colder or cooler, if you want to be by the beach, if you want to be in the city, if you want to be in the country, like you can do all of that in this country, which I think is really cool. I knew that, but then still having the conversation with her, going on the walking tour, just talking about the a bit of the diversity of the city, um, culturally and around food and language and the different peoples that have come here and settled here. So it's really informative. I enjoyed the walking tour. It was a lot of walking. The walking tour, you are walking, okay? We were up early in the morning, walking around, we did all that, we went to eat. So it was a long day on Wednesday, but a great one. So was that Wednesday? Yep, that was Wednesday. So Thursday, I felt like I was gonna have to conquer fear. I was almost like, no, I don't want to do it because I'm afraid of heights. And Thursday was an air tram ride through the rainforest and to an observation deck, and then lunch and all those things. Again, we had to get up early in the morning. And we got driven out about 45 minutes, maybe driven out to Gamboa, uh, uh, rainforest or nature reserve. Excuse me if I'm mixing those two. I believe it's the rainforest reserve, and it was like also a resort, beautiful resort. And then you can book these tours, several different tours. We booked the air tram, we saw some birds, and at first I was like, I want to get on this air tram because I was like, oh, this gonna be high, which is true, it was high, but I was so in the trees that I couldn't see how high I was. So I was like, okay, in my head it was worse or scarier than it actually was. It wasn't. I was like, I can do this once I got on the tram, but at first I was like, nah, this is scary, I don't want to do this. Why am I here? But it was amazing. And then yeah, we did that. We had lunch, another full day, right? So Wednesday, full day, I get home, I'm exhausted. Thursday, Thursday, full day, I get home, I'm exhausted. And then Friday, which was really fun. First day, we didn't have to get up at the crack of dawn. I think first and it was the first and only day, but at least the first day, we didn't have to get up at the crack of dawn. Kind of had a leisurely morning, but then met up for lunch at Casco Viejo, which I had been to before, but Casco Viejo. But I went to a new restaurant, a Peruvian restaurant I'd never been to before, and we had lunch out there before we did a cooking class with Chef Dave, which was really, really cool. We took the girls everywhere we went. Both of our daughters were 10 and adventurous and amazing, and so we were able to take them everywhere, and they got to spend time together and catch up and have all these experiences. And so we took a cooking class, and it was really fun. It was like it's supposed to be 3.5 hours. I felt like it was like 4.5 hours, but it's all good because we cooked and we ate, and we made bacalao and coconut rice and beans. We made saltfish fritters. We made these two sauces dips, this garlic aioli with culantro, which was amazing. It's like cilantro but like more pungent. And we made another like a spicy pico de gallo. It was like what made it spicy? What did we put in it? Did we put scotch bonnet? A little bit of scotch bonnet. If you know, you know. So we put some scotch bonnet and it had a little kick to it, like a little kick. But it was great. What I really loved about the cooking class was all the instruction and walking through everything, and then the little tips and tricks that I got around like cooking and watching my daughter. He was very great to involve the girls and have them like stir the pot and chop up the vegetables and add certain things to the pot and cut up the plátanos. We also have plátanos. That was the other thing. Okay, I almost forgot. And so it was great to experience that for myself, but it's also great to experience see the girls experience it too. So that was really fun. So we had that, and we had the cooking class, and we had dinner. obviously at the cooking class, and then we went out for dessert because for some reason our girls had in their mind that they every night we're supposed to have dessert. So we had a lot of dessert runs as well. So we had dessert after the cooking class on this is on Friday. So that brings us to Saturday. And Saturday was a memorable day. Remember, I told you that only bested by birthing my children, I had the most physically arduous experience that I can think of in my life. I felt like I was on Survivor. Okay. And it was a beautiful experience. And I'll admit, I can do a little hike, a little stroll. I like to walk, but this was a lot for me. This was physically challenging. Um, and not so physically challenging that I'm like I couldn't do it necessarily, but also I felt like I can't do this. I have to turn back. But we went to the Embera village, and in that kind of, and I want to walk you through that. I touched a little bit about this in the video where I said I thought I couldn't do this, but I was wrong. I talked about that experience, but I want to walk you through like that day and the experience itself. So come with me for a little story time here because Saturday was definitely amazing and a doozy. So it was beautiful. We went to the Embera. Our plan was to tour the Embera village and do, meet with the indigenous people, and they do a dance and they make lunch for you. They do some traditional dances and music too and song. They make lunch for you in their traditional kitchens, and it's beautiful. They tell you things about their culture and their handiwork and what they make and what the significance is. It was really nice. So the thing is, again, okay, so we had a day, a reprieve. We're getting up at the crack of dawn again. The tour guide, who was amazing, by the way, shout out to Javier, picked us up so he was going to pick us up at 7:15 a.m. And he ended up being there. I didn't even see the message, so I was still getting ready at like 6:43. He was like, "I'm here," and I was like, I had planned for 7:15, and I was down there at 7:15. Okay, 7:14, I was downstairs. I was ready. I wasn't gonna make him wait, but I didn't realize he was gonna be there that early, and he was. He was there quite early, but he was so great. He waited. I responded to him as soon as I saw it. He was still there, waiting for me at 7:14 when we got downstairs. So we get picked up, and it was probably about a 45-minute drive out to where we need to catch the boat on the river to go to the village. So it was a cloudy day, okay? But a lot of times in the morning here, it's cloudy. We're at the beginning of rainy season, apparently. It's cloudy, but doesn't necessarily rain until later on in the day. So I saw the clouds, but I'm like, okay. We get to the place where we're catching the boat on the side of the river, the Chargas River, and it's a tiny boat. Another one of my fears. Okay. So the air tram heights fear. Okay. And then tiny boats. Another tiny boats are another thing that I'm, like, I like to be a boat where I feel like I'm encased, like a yacht or a catamaran or a ship. So tiny boat is a lot. But I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna say yes. So there's this wooden cutout boat, and it's motorized. I have a motor too. And you get on, and there's someone meeting you from the Embera village. One of the Embera people are at the front of the boat. You get on. I have my book bag with me. I also have like a long sleeve shirt to put on, just in case, I like a button down to put on top of my t-shirt. And then we get on the boat, and I had my book bag on me. I should have kept it on, but I don't know if it's a weight thing. And it was like, oh, let's put your book bag in the front. So I put my bag in the front. Now, mind you, my poncho, umbrella, those kind of things are up in the front with my backpack. So we start sailing. I'm like, okay, it's good. I didn't see anybody else other tour groups were getting on tiny boats, and they also did not have on like ponchos and rain gear. So I'm like, okay, we're good. So we're sailing. We're on the river for maybe about 5 minutes, and it starts to drizzle. And I was like, no. Mm-mm. I was like, okay, maybe, just maybe, it's just gonna drizzle. And then when we get to the village, I'll get my book bag, I'll put on our rain gear stuff, we're gonna be good. But no, the drizzle turned into like a downpour. And I can't even, I'm trying to just tap in to tell you what was going through my mind at the time because I'm in this boat. You're situated in such a way, I'm sure, to keep the boat, the weight distributed a certain way on the boat. Okay, somebody's in the front, somebody's in the back, and they distributed us on the, to sit on the boat. There's like these little benches on the boat you sit on in such a way, I feel like for, for safety. And my book bag is at the front of the boat. I can't just stand up and go get my book bag and somebody's like navigating the boat in the front. I can't be like, hey, so please pass me my backpack so that I can unzip it in the rain and get this stuff. It was there, nothing felt like in the moment that it was conducive to me getting my rain gear, but I was kind of like daydreaming about my rain gear being in that it's just just within reach, but also with out of reach. With not without a reach, with outside of reach. Child, this is how I'm getting back into that mind frame that I was in when I was in the rain. And then the rain just kept getting harder and harder. And you could just feel everything getting soaked to the bone. I could feel the sloshing in my wool socks, in my sneakers. I could feel my shirt just sticking to me and my back. I'm trying to kind of hide under the life jacket that I have on. Like maybe if I do this somehow, I'll create a runoff for the rain. My hair is now completely soaked and dripping as if I washed it. Okay, as if this was wash day. And my face, I had to close my eyes because the way the rain was just hitting my face and was getting in my eyes, I had to close my eyes. And as I'm closing my eyes, I'm just like in disbelief and almost praying that the rain would stop. And I'm also thinking to turn around and ask our tour guide how much longer we have until we get to the village. But then I keep convincing myself that it doesn't matter because I'm already drenched. What is him telling me it's going to be another 5 minutes, going to be another 10 minutes? How is that going to help me? And so I psyched myself out of asking that question because it did not seem like it mattered. Okay, no me importa. But I was like, when is this going to be over so that I can, how drenched am I going to get? Is this just going to get worse? And I'm pretty sure at some point, out of frustration, I had some, Denzel tear was just kind of coming. I was just had a frustrated tearing up. Okay, but you wouldn't be able to tell because my face was covered in raindrops and rain and wetness. And in that moment, I'm also regretting that I forgot to put the towel that I was just going to grab and put in my book bag And so I'm wholly unprepared for Mother Nature at this point, and I'm being drenched on a boat in the middle of the river. And so we were in torrential rain for a long time, for a while. It felt like forever. It wasn't, but it was a while. And I felt bad too because my daughter was also not prepared. So she's getting drenched. I'm getting drenched. And mind you, we have this experience all day. We left at 7:15 a.m. and we're probably going to be there about to 4:30, 4:45. This is just the beginning of the journey. This is just getting to the village. And I am soaked to the bone. So I get to the village and it's great. Everybody's so welcoming. And I am just sensorially, I am uncomfortable. And I'm also thinking in my head, I am going to be continuing this experience completely drenched and uncomfortable. This is how, because the sun hadn't come out. There was no indication that I was going to be able to dry myself off. So it was just what it was. And I was like, we are wet. So we went to the bathroom. I wrung out my, I just tried to wipe off my face. I wrung out my hair, my shirt. I wrung out my socks as much as I could, then put my damp socks back on, back into my wet sneakers. We did what we could to just be cool. And in that moment, I get to the village. I'm also telling myself, I'm having an uncomfortable physical experience. and and my senses and my sensitivities are being triggered by being drenched and now having to kind of go through my day in that way. And I'm also reminding myself I'm here. I'm being welcomed by the villagers and the people who want to share and show us around. And I want to kind of I want to tap into that so I can shift my countenance, so that I can shift my disposition, because it's not on them, right? So I want to remain in a sense of gratitude and have a positive attitude. I'm working on that and simultaneously reminding my daughter, who is also super frustrated and now is starting to cry, that I understand, that I get it, being there for her in the moment and reminding her to have gratitude and reminding her where we are, because it's, it's just what it is at this point. Let's keep moving forward. So then they're like, okay, we kind of get dry, we go to the bathroom and get ourselves together as best we can, all four of us, and they're like, okay, ready to hike. And it was like, it could be a short hike. I was like, yeah, I think I would like the short hike. It wasn't the short hike, it was still like a 3 hour hike up a mountain, up the mountain and down the mountain. So here's the thing. I feel like the video and pictures don't do it justice. My husband was like, this doesn't seem that bad, but he was also a Marine, okay, who was hiking in the jungle in the dark, type of. So he's like, For me, I felt like I was in an episode of Survivor, because I was like, this isn't like, the hike wasn't like a paved hike. It wasn't like a road you see, it wasn't like a well traveled. It felt like situation where there was a pathway and easy way to kind of navigate, and then there was maybe some steep parts, and then it kind of leveled out. No, it wasn't. We were hiking up the mountain of that rainforest. Okay, just as is, okay, as nature had made that rainforest and mountain with all of its vines and trees and bushes and insects and animals. We were there. I was like, oh, I didn't know it was gonna be like that, because like I told you in the other video, had I known, I would have psyched myself out. I'm like, there's no way I can do it. There's no way that I can physically do that. There's no way. And I remember when the hike started, and and I didn't know where to start because I didn't see a path, and I just had to walk through the brush, and they're like, just walk, just walk, and these slippery leaves, because it had just rained, mind you. And I was like, oh, and then we get to this like little creek area, and I'm having to like kind of scale over these rocks to get over the creek area and then hop to this other rock. And I was like, oh, this is real. This is real. And I have my walking stick, and the walking stick saved my life. I was holding on to that walking stick for dear life so much that I have calluses. I'm like sore on the, you hold something real tight. I was gripping for life. So my hands were sore the next day, because that's walking stick was my lifeline for real. And we went up when you say go up, this is the incline. We were here the whole time going up. I was like, at no point, it was just here. I was like, how much more up? At some point, we got 30-40 minutes in. I was like, how much more up? How much more up is it? When I tell you it was up, and I was just, it was like mountain climbing for real. I was like, am I trained for this? I have not trained for this. I have not stretched for this. And I was sweating. My husband knows I'm not like beads of sweat dripping down my face type of sweater. I was sweating. I usually just glisten. I was drenched. I was breathing hard. My friend was touching my pulse. She was like, yeah, you kind of racing. It's racing. I had to stop to drink some water sometimes. And at some point, I was moving on sheer adrenaline, right? Because finally, I feel like maybe a little over an hour in of being on a steep incline. And there were many times I was like, I can't do this. But it was like I was at the point of no return. I couldn't turn around. Now, the beautiful thing is the second chief was leading the way with him. It was him and his machete. I should have known it was real when he, was at the front with the machete, because machete means that you're gonna have to cut some things out the way to make a way, because there's no way, there's no safe way, so we're gonna have to make a way. And he was like, this is not difficult for him, it was a short, but they were there, the guide was there, they were very helpful. I couldn't have done it without them. Okay, there were times where they had to hold my hand, hold me up, give me a hand to give me some leverage to lift me up. Okay, I had accidentally almost like kind of stumbled. I was tripping on some vines, and I held onto a tree. The tree had little spikes on it, and I was like, oh, I'm going to touch that tree. So I had to watch out for the spiky trees versus the trees that I could touch and get a little bit more leverage, because there wasn't a lot of leverage going up. And then we get up and we're like, okay, finally we can breathe a little bit. And then we started going down. And going down was okay until we got maybe to the last 15 minutes of going down. And it was a steep down to the point we had to crouch down, hold on to things. I slid on my butt a few times going down. I did. Slid down, tripped up. I did. This is true. But you know what? I did it. I made it. I felt extremely accomplished that I did it and I made it. And then once we made it over the mountaintop, we got back on a tiny boat and went a little ways back to the village. They had lunch ready for us. They had fried up the fresh tilapia, which I hadn't had. Wild tilapia. It was delicious. And some patacones, and they wrapped it in this banana leaf with a flour and half a lime to squeeze. It was delicious. It was just, tilapia. I stopped buying the six saw farm raised. So to have like the fresh, wild caught tilapia was really nice and it tasted really good. Then they told us about some of the jewelry and the carvings that they make and some of the materials that they use to make their handiwork and their baskets, how they dye it with everything that's naturally that they can find in the rainforest. The housing is made with all of the wood and the thatch they can find in the rainforest. It was really amazing. It was really amazing to learn how they live, their customs, some of the words in Embera in their language. See the children, they were so welcoming. They've done this before. Like they're not new to this, they're true to this and welcoming tourists to see their way of life, to share their way of life, we bought some stuff and from the handiwork that they do to support them, and also because you want souvenirs. I went to a few souvenir shops, okay, on this whole tourist week. There's nothing more touristy than taking pictures of everything and going to a souvenir shop, okay? So I got some headbands and I got some jewelry. I did throughout the week. But yeah, it was great to experience that, to see that they danced and just music and drumming and inviting us up with them, and it was a really good vibe. And yeah, that it was an amazing experience, and it was challenging. It was challenging. That part of it was challenging. The rain on the river on the boat and the mountain, but when I tell you I felt so accomplished, it was amazing. And it was a beautiful day all in all. Like it was an emotional roller coaster at times, but it was a beautiful day. And it was so wonderful and amazing to learn about the Embera people as much as we could, and to hear them share and to experience it. And I felt very cared for and very humbled and very grateful for the experience. And then we finally got home. I'm like, what did I do? I think I just stayed home. I didn't go back out because we're like, oh, we're gonna meet up for dinner. I was asleep on the ride back to my apartment. We all were. We were knocked out. And at this point, it's almost 5 o'clock. We get home. It's like, ain't nobody gonna meet up for dinner. But I'm open if that's what we're doing. And then we didn't. The next day, Saturday, I actually didn't do much. I needed a recovery day, y'all. I'm at that point in season in my life where I need to recover from things like this. Okay. So I didn't. They got up and did an afternoon. Well, they got up and my daughter went with them to do an afternoon trip to the Panama Canal and actually see the Panama Canal and see the ships roll in and go to the observation deck. I sent my daughter so she got to see it. I was like, I can't go. I'm so sore. I can't lift my arms. My hands are sore. My legs are sore. I think I need to stay. I think I need to rest. I think I need to recover. And so that's what I did. And then was this Saturday? No, this was Sunday. Saturday was the Bear Bridge. So sorry, Sunday. This was Sunday that they went to see the canal, and then we did meet up for dinner on Sunday evening, which was our last day here, which was yesterday, and then they left this morning. So yeah, that was my week as a tourist. It was jam packed. I do not tend to jam pack my weeks just on a regular basis. So this was so different for me, and it required its own level of stamina and endurance. But it was so worth it. It was such a great time. Um, And I would say for me, just reflecting, I'm grateful for the opportunity that my friend gave me in coming and having these things that she wanted to do and being the adventure seeker that she is, because she pushed me to do things that I would not have normally done, that I would not have done on my own. I would not have thought maybe that would be fun, or it would be too challenging for me towards the end of the week. But yeah, I experienced Panama as a tourist, and it was really fun and revelatory and interesting, and I had a good time. And I'm grateful to my friend, and I'm grateful for you for watching and for listening to me just share my week as a tourist, as someone who actually lives here in Panama City. And yeah, hopefully some of this was interesting to you. What would you have done any of these excursions? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, please give that a thumbs up. And if conversations like this, reflections and insights on my life abroad, and that challenges, change, transition that me, my husband, and my family are in right now, if that and conversations on how we can have more feel good relationship with self and our partners feel good to you, if that's your vibe, then please subscribe and come along on this journey with me. I would love to have you. So yeah, thank you again. I appreciate you, and I'll see you tomorrow.